Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's pretty much everything. At least Caitlyn and Zach.
Yeah, we'll see if they ban out Kalista here.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Maybe take that away from Maha. We're putting a lot of thought into this one, though, which is kind of curious. But that Kalista ban, definitely the obvious ban coming in here. Some power picks still left available. Maokai still available. Tristana is up. You also got the Galio still available. Another big pick in the mid lane. But the Gragas being hovered here for the side of MVP as their first pick.
And that will be the Gragas. So at least now they have engage tools. That's basically what they want. They want that if Jin Air play the exact same composition or the same style, that they will have a way to engage onto them, as opposed to the Rexa that just relies on an early game, getting some lanes ahead and looking for some synergistic teamfight engages. Gragas does it all in one. He just brings the party to himself with the cast, with his engage. So one pick to make sure that MVP can be more proactive is what they're looking for.
We're looking at a hover here on Sejuani. We still have mixed success so far.
I thought you didn't like the hovers.
I don't really like the hovers. I get baited all the time, but I don't know, this seems like a legitimate pick, and they are going to lock that in. Should be given over to Umti in the jungle. And, I mean, with the Elise taken off the table, the Gragas also taken away. I want to take a closer look at what else he's been playing. You know, the Rek'Sai is still available. Decides not to go for the Rek'Sai. The Lee Sin, also he has been seen playing that, but doesn't want to play it in this game.
Well, I think you've reached the point of hovers where after you've been hovered enough, you get a feeling for what's real and what's not.
It's true. And it seems like I've been doing well with picking out what's real and what's not, as the Sejuani does come in. The Tristana is taken away this time by the side of MVP. Ooh. Cho'Gath as well is going to be picked up for them. And as I said before, I mentioned it in the beginning of the cast, the Cho'Gath so far sitting at 1-7. We were talking about how perhaps these guys still need a little bit more practice on this champion.
His two main abilities, which are Rupture and Silence, are so impactful, but I don't think Jin Air cares much about it. I love the Renekton pick into it. You're going to just smash this lane as Renekton into Cho'Gath. You're never really going to be in serious trouble. Only later down the line when somebody else comes at you, you can actually get killed. But for the most part, your slice and dice will get you out of any sticky situation. And there we go. If you didn't know it, that's what Cho'Gath does for you. Look at that. Isn't that grotesque?
It's beautiful.
Crap. He's huge.
Looking to have a grand feast today, but already looking at the composition of Jin Air, they're going with a very strong front line and the Xayah, this type of composition. You see the immediate ban on Taric saying, hey, we're not going to allow you to have this and try to counter us. And
I gotta say, you gotta give me credit on this, Valdez, because when we saw the Taric coming out, I was saying Taric is going to be picked as the answer to hard engage compositions, period. Is that not happening?
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
I mean, we've seen it with even less success than other picks. It's been kind of lackluster, but the idea still remains that if your timing is impeccable, you are going to smash compositions like this if you can save whatever they're trying to hard engage on your side, on your team.
But remember also how I was saying that if you're playing these dive compositions with tanks, it's really important that you're able to hit the backline as well. That's what is overlooked about Taric as well. If you put your Bastion onto a tank, such as Renekton, and then he slices and dices twice, and then extends the range of the Taric stun, you're actually able to CC some really important members in the backline and allow everybody to close the gap and get some crazy engages on. So this champion is very worth banning, and I like that Jin Air goes for it, but the compositions for both these teams are already shaping up to be all-out 5v5 brawl with a bit of an advantage in the top side for Jin Air to push, but for the most part, I think that we're just going to be dead even.
Do have the Rakan left over. Don't want to give that over to the side of Jin Air, and just another one of these beast engagers in 7.14, so that does get taken away. I like the Corki pick. They deny that from Ian, as well as, you know, a bunch of the bans from the side of MVP were against that Corki, as they were trying to bait that in. and instead it gets taken away. So last pick, Alistar. Alistar, another pick that's been having major success recently. In 7-14, he is 5-1. So far, especially with the help of guys like Tushin, he's been having a ton of success on the Rift nowadays.
Yeah, he's a fantastic tank, especially in getting the main carries out of a fight. If you get headbutted and you don't have a gap closer, you are basically out for the count. But I want to highlight why Max went with the Rakan as well. Okay, sure, he might be hyped for stealing a Baron, but when you have the Gragas, you have your main target for a combo for a ball carrier, but Rakan is an even better target. He finds ways into the back line like nobody else, and if you can combo that with a Shockwave, you can bypass so much of the front line. You get a great engage for yourself. It's a fantastic lane, so you add another ball carrier, which is a different dimension to Orianna that we haven't seen before. Before, the support that could do it was almost always the Alistar, the one guy that could go in. But now you've got Rakan that can do it as well, and most of all, this composition from MVP can also target the backline, which is what we wanted to see. The Orianna has risen in priority because you can leave the ball, you can threaten champions without having to flash in or without having to get in some crazy positions such as a Syndra or a Corki. Orianna can be safe and hit the carries that matter and still protect her tanks.
Yeah, looking for some big combinations on the side of MVP, looking for the Wombo combo, Rakan, Gragas, Orianna, getting Cho'Gath in the mix as well. We'll see if they can actually make it work, whereas the double AD composition with the big frontline wall of tanks for the side of Jin Air. Looking towards Sohwan to potentially do some work up in the top side. We're getting a zoom in on Kuzan before the game starts. There is not going to be a delay, guys. Let's hop into game number 2 of Jin Air versus MVP right now. Here we go, game number 2. We're gonna turn the sound on, and we should be looking at Alistar right now. I don't know why they want to look at this trade. I want to look at Alistar and the cowbell. Okay, they're just gonna deny it from us.
I think he literally can hear what you're saying, understands English, and is thinking, let's not have Valdez get his cowbell.
I mean, come on, he's doing it in the pixel brush in the river. It's like they're teasing us. Okay, there we go. Oh, and now he stops. Yeah, perfect timing, Observer.
I told you,
Thanks
he's
a lot.
looking at you. He's thinking of you.
Thanks a lot, bud.
But I like what Jin Air has with their composition, which is slightly different than what MVP has going for themselves, which is 2 AD carries that have self-peel. Orianna does not have self-peel, so she's going to be the target that Jin Air will be looking for in all these fights, especially since she doesn't have any cleanse. So they're just going to be going all out to kill Ian, and if they get him out of the fight and they can mitigate some of Ian's damage, then they'll be set up for success. Whereas what MVP wants to do is just go for some crazy wombos. They can kill frontline, they can kill backline. It's all about the synergy that they use with their composition. So similar with Jin Air, we're just going to have to wait till post-laning phase, because the only advantage anybody has here is really just an early harass from MVP, his bottom side, as well as Sohwan pushing in the Cho'Gath early on.
I think once this gets into extreme late game, that Wombo combo is definitely going to lose some efficiency. The charm can definitely be canceled out by some later game QSSs that are bought by the 2 very mobile AD carries that you were talking about. And I think they're going to have to make some work happen early on before that becomes a factor in this game, because they can definitely make work happen with this Wombo combo.
That combo is so fast, though, because it's not just about hitting the knockup. If Rakan gets in there and the synergy is already in place between Orianna and Rakan, he doesn't even need to hit you with it. As long as he's remotely close to hitting the Shockwave, if the Shockwave gets procced as he's flying midair, it will connect at that point, and it's going to actually hit the carries before they have a time to respond. Not everybody has Captain Jack-like reflexes on the QSS. There's a reason why he became so famous for doing it, because even now, not everybody can live up to that standard.
Well, a man can dream. We'll hope to see it here, because I know that Jin Air is very aware of this, but we'll see if they can make this gank work. A nice knock-up actually onto Baha into the charge by MT. Should be an easy first blood pickup. That they will feed over to the side of Teddy. A great start from the side of Jin Air.
He got the rocket jump canceled by the Arctic Assault, and that was the thing that made the difference. And it was great for Snowflower to start the gank off, and you actually saw what was thinking. He wanted to use the Blast Cone to get over the Tri-Brush in case it was warded, but he missed it. So he actually just said, screw it, we'll just go right away. And so he combos in, but just so much greed out of Maha ends up costing his life. And First Blood going over to the AD carry. His counterpart in lane is going to be real trouble now.
Yeah, and Teddy still has his flash available. Snowflower won't have his for his nice engage, but definitely going to be a good advantage on the side of Jin Air as they still have both summoners left available for Teddy.
You almost always have to start with that flash, and if we thought it wasn't going to be bad, it's going to actually be even worse than what we had expected, because Teddy gets to go back, picks up the Warhammer, and Mahines in return goes for a call. So just banking on that crazy late game, and this is not looking good for MVP. I got a bad feeling about this. Going with that itemization here, just banking on, you know what, screw it, we don't care about this lane anymore. We are just going to farm it up, is not something that inspires a lot of confidence in what MVP is doing here.
It's going to be quite a rough lane, and I think they're, as you said, kind of essentially giving it up at this point. It's a catch-up maneuver, but at the same time, you are so far behind in items against the other 80 carries. So see if they can make that work, hopefully for them. Not a good sign, as so far up in the top lane, the Renekton not able to bully this Cho'Gath all too much. At least not just yet.
Cho is still powerful, right? He's stronger in lane now with his E. Just skill that up, start harassing from afar. That was one of his key traits in lane before that allowed him to just continuously push because it was permanently active. Now it does more damage, but it has to be triggered on. It is actually a spell. That does actually offer quite a bit of trading in chunking. It's really surprising how much damage his E does.
It's pretty ridiculous. Definitely something you have to look at a lot and play against a bunch to get a good feel for how much damage it does do. One of the reasons he's quite good nowadays, on top of everything else. These stacks, the small buffs onto the Q and W as well. Level 6 hit up top, and ADD in a bit of trouble, but here comes Beyond trying to save his life. That body slam and so on all of a sudden is the guy who's in trouble trying to fight against this Gragas. He's going to be running into those minions and just taking way too much damage. Cannot follow up and cannot pick up that kill.
Oh, I wanted Sohwan to try to go for the 1v2 to maybe flash into ADD and go for a kill onto him and maybe trade. He was strong enough to take out Beyond because his Call the Meek was going to come back up, but it's just not worth the risk for him at that point. It is close. You are banking on situations that you probably would at worst trade 1-for-1, or a best trade 1-for-1 rather. So it's just not worth the chance. You're a Renekton. If you fall behind, things are not going to shape up for you. So that's a slice and dice power. He gets to go in right away, and he wants to go for the all-in, but at least Beyond saves his life. But just look at the Fury build-up for him. The Cold and Meek comes back up. The second it's going to be right back up. He knows that Beyond, he's got long cooldowns right now, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, at least able to save ADD's life, but it's not really what you want to be doing here. You want to be a bit more active, picking up kills for your team, trying to make that Gragas engage work for you. And we saw actually Ian having a little bit of trouble in the mid lane as he burned both of his Ghost and his Flash on that one. And Kuzan still with both the TP and the Flash available. So 2 games in a row, Kuzan's just been bullying Ian in the lane by himself. So we're going to take another look. Okay, I said by myself, but I was wrong. Umti did go for a gank. We just did miss it. So uses those summoners to get away.
And that's important because now Umti 100% is coming back to this lane. It would make no sense for the Sejuani to look for a gank, burn both summoners out of such a critical mid laner, and not look to go for the repeat. And after red buff, they have to go for this. And even Snowflower is feeling like assisting in this setup. There are some serious control wards, one on the left side of mid and another one in the aggressive ramp for Jin Air, but they have to clear everything for them to get Ian. And frankly, if they go for a 3-man, they could also dive Ian. So it's going to be about Snowflower, and if he has some room in his lane to go help mid lane.
Yeah, it's a very scary position right now for Ian, who's also picking up the blue buff that can be stolen away with a good gank. There are 3 control wards now.
Here it is.
They're setting it up, and here we go. Does put the ball down, and that will spot out so no gank just yet. Bit of trading up in top side. Doesn't look like ADD has the pressure to go for a kill just yet with that feast. Sohwan rather, totally comfortable in that lane.
That's kind of how the lane of Cho'Gath goes. Every time you use Feast early on, you don't have any kill pressure. Nobody's going to be scared of you because you can't go for that crazy CS. It's so easy to get out of range of getting killed when you're up against Cho'Gath without Feast. So every time he uses it on lane, he can just be as aggressive as he wants, get as low as he needs to be, regen back off the minion wave and be A-okay. Whereas if he saves the Feast, then he's going to have kill pressure, but you can't be saving it. You need it. You need to get those stacks early on. So it's only after a certain amount of time, a couple of minutes, that ADD has enough stacks of Feast where he can start legitimately looking forward to going for those 1v1s. Otherwise, if he saves it, it's usually an indication that is going to be nearby, that he's going to get ganked. So it's very obvious for the Cho lane to when he's going to go aggressive and when he's not.
Another pretty passive bottom lane outside of that one gank that we saw by the side of that did pick up the first blood. Even with both of these very aggressive supports, neither side has been able to find a big play just yet.
We want to see the big play be in mid lane. Ian still does not have his flash. Okay.
And there. Kuzan does have in the brush beyond. They don't have vision. He's just going to face check in here. Does get that Arctic Assault, but the ult goes wide. Oh boy. Not the cleanest engage we've ever seen, and that means that no kill will happen in the mid lane just yet.
Oh my, that was the biggest whip I've seen so far.
That's like when you're trying to play catch with your friends and you're a little bit nervous about throwing the ball. You're like, I'm a nerd. I don't really play sports. I just like to stay inside and play computer games. So you try to throw the ball, and then the ball goes straight into the ground as you throw it as hard as possible, and it's just a really embarrassing moment.
You just gave me the least relatable experience ever. I'm an athlete, Valdez. I'm an athlete.
Well, I wasn't talking to you, Crumbs. I was talking to our audience. No offense meant, but either way, the Infernal Drake does come out here as MVP just sidles on over and takes that down. MT with no available ult cooldown, and they can't really contest there.
And if no Flower Fancy's going to the top side, I don't think they're going to be able to kill ADD as 2 members as well. They got to get some chunk damage onto him beforehand, and it looks like they're thinking about bringing the whole crew up here. I don't think ADD will fall for it this time around. It was already enough of the punishment on the Kled. I think he's learned his lesson to just respect a little bit more about what Jin Air is trying to do in his lane. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
No cowbell, though? Oh, yeah. Not going to go for it.
He's feeding his kittens with milk. It was first time for music, now it's feeding time.
2 kittens feeding on that milk. I think milk is only healthy for kittens and not for adult cats. I heard that somewhere. So be careful who you feed milk to.
What? That was cow milk.
Yeah, but any milk. Bull milk?
Alistar's male.
Where does the milk come from? A question for another time. As ADD is getting burst down here, they do have that Dominus up, and they will be going for the dive. Oh. Another huge whiff! What the hell? This is not going in. MT, please do not play basketball, as that just goes totally wide. And, okay, they still pick up the kill.
Yeah, they get the kill onto ADD, and yeah, he just died very easily. He didn't really put up much of a fight there, and in return, we're going to see a counter onto the bottom lane. Sohwan has teleport, so he is going to be able to respond, and there is nobody pressuring Corki. This is not going to be a good dive for MVP.
They're still trying to go for it. The TP coming out, they beat that out. Stun going on to Maha. And yeah, no dive comes out as they do respect the TP. Should have known that was making his way down too. And that means that no kills in the bottom lane will come through.
That was a shocking completion because normally you would agree with it and think, all right, he has to go for it because otherwise they're not going to be deterred from the gank. So because I could just wait for the next wave and do it again. But was coming down there again, and having Sejuani down there would have been enough. So we're going to look at this one more time. How does he start it? Bam, goes for the Rupture right away. I think you would be better advised to go for the Rupture when they're under the tower first. You want to have them slowed and CC'd in that position, not earlier.
This is going to be one of those series.
Cho mechanics. I play Cho all the time. I play AP Cho mid. I played AP Cho top. I played Cho in the jungle. I played Cho every single position. I played Cho. I am the Cho maniac.
You must be pretty happy with the current meta then.
No,
although not happy with the 1-in-8 Cho'Gath that's about to happen if MVP loses.
He's going to get nerfed, and he has great ratios as AP, by the way. The ultimate kind of tweaking to make him tankier was not my fondest thing.
Can we see an ult land this time? Okay, they will just get the flash away. Deciding not to go for it.
Ult was actually up only after Ian was under the tower, so they just saw the opportunity to go for it right then and there. Otherwise, I think he would have pulled the trigger before, but I think maybe we can expect that of to actually hit a prediction ult in the future if he actually keeps whipping
I hope so, man.
much. It'll be like, oh, he's a god. Just cut the highlight reel. Don't show him the first two. Just show the only predicted ones.
Yeah.
That's how you make a montage.
You only pick out the best moments of your play, of course. And yeah, I mean, Jin Air, they could probably win this series, and still would be a little bit embarrassed. So we'll see if he can follow that up with some nice plays. He's had some pretty sick Lee Sin games, and he is one of the very most mechanically skilled junglers, especially being a rookie in this league. And there we go. A couple of towers are traded. The first one does go over to the side of MVP, so they should be happy with that. The gold is extremely close at this moment in time. MVP only about 300 behind, so sticking in this one.
Absolutely. It's going to be all about the team fight, so we still have a long ways to go, especially when it comes down to a Baron. Both these teams have wave clear to spare. It'll be difficult for them to siege onto the mid lane. It has been pretty even so far. I think Ian has fallen a little bit behind in CS, but that's only because of tremendous pressure, although it hasn't really gone anywhere else besides... I completely forgot. He actually did gank that bottom lane at level 3, but or 4 on his part. I do want to put some blame on Teddy on that one, though. It's the mechanics. You got to be mechanically sound to get out of those moments.
Yeah, Maha not responding too well to that moment in time. Perhaps a little bit of panic coming through in the moment. We have had these lanes swap now, as both the bot side duos have gone into the top lane, and the junglers hanging around this side of the map as well. Kuzan with the TP and being Corki should be able to get up into the top lane a lot easier should a fight break out.
I really doubt fights will be breaking out at any time soon between these guys. For the most part, they can all just farm safely without being a kill threat of each other. So we resort to just dilly-daddling.
Twiddling our thumbs.
But I do want to talk about the mechanic, because this is one of my favorite things about League, which is the mechanics versus being knowledgeable. Because let's say you have, I don't think much is going to happen on this one. Damn it, they're cutting my point off. My narrative is falling apart.
Right before your eyes. And we got 4 members of MVP over here. Ghost even used by Ian. They really want to secure this. Let's see the smite. Can challenge this? They get that knock up into Beyond, and it does go over to as well with the big smite. Good shockwave though, but it's not enough damage. No follow-up. They're going to lock down Ian as well and make that another kill on the side. Trying to get on top of Kuzan though is this Cho'Gath, and he knocks him into him and sets up the kill. Unbelievable. Definitely a bit of a mistake by Snowflower as he lets his mid laner die. But either way, at the end of this, Jin Air should be happy about that trade.
Oh, Snowflower.
And the zoom in too. They're like, yeah, dude, nice play.
But yeah, that's what I was saying. This shouldn't amount to anything because it was a terrible move. Beyond should have just left at that one. You're giving so much time for Jin Air to think, hey, should we collapse on this? It's right there. They're kind of tanking it. Oh yeah.
That's
yeah,
that one's hard to miss.
Yeah, that one's so hard to miss because like MVP just is asking for it. I really don't know why they didn't pull off out of that Herald. It could have been so easy for them. Instead, they lose so many members.
Oh.
It's Snowflower. Here it is.
Teddy with the moves, the flash heal. He's like, I got you, buddy. No, Snowflower says no.
Secret Agent Snowflower. It sounds like a CIA project name. Project Snowflower.
He's like, I was playing so well in game 1 and you guys let me down. I gotta let you die, Kuzan. I'm sorry, buddy.
And the Rift Herald got to go over to Jin Air, which sways mid lane even more for them, as now they get to walk away with a tier 1 after all. And another early game lead for Jin Air. Not quite as strong and not quite as simple to execute as game 1, but still the driver's seat that we were expecting from them.
Yeah, just capitalizing on the mistake. MT staying calm, sticking around that Rift Herald pit, saying, okay, we see you. We can set this up from a mile away. We have lots of time to get our players in position and set up the big engage. And things just fell apart rather, for MVP. And now the TP even being committed to here. You can tell that Jin Air, they don't want to let these two very big engage, or dragons rather, go over to the side of MVP. Snowflower looking to come from behind, but Ian has him on his radar, trying to zone him out for now. The dragon will go over to Beyond, and now it is time for MVP to disengage. They're going to re-go onto Empty, though. That gets very low. The nice knockup does miss, though. The quickness coming in. That's going to be a couple of kills going over to the Cho'Gath. Maha makes it out on the blasting plan. Does get out of harm's way, and now all of a sudden this one's turning around. A triple kill.
It's Baron too. They're going to go for Baron as well.
Oh, boy. Things turn around in a split second as Jin Air with a couple of mistakes. And the Void Terror, the Cho'Gath coming through.
Hey, why did they go for Baron? That could have been a good Baron play.
Not feeling it.
Just taking it easy, but never mind. We're going to look at the replay off that one. Then Jin Air is just trying to go around the Rosie. MVP was not decisive enough, but they were just barely. So Renekton gets to make it into the fight, but Alistar is not joining in. So it all starts as a 4v5, and a great cast that separates Corki. Eventually, he is left by himself, gets taken out by Ian, and Maha survives at the very end. And I gotta say, if this was a Chinese team, or if this was KT, we would have seen a beeline for the Baron, and that would have blown the game wide open.
Still an extremely good spot for MVP. I mean, they have a really nice engage. Maha gets out of there with the rocket jump at last second, and no one on their side dies. Unfortunately, all the kills did go over to Cho'Gath, though.
Also, even more reason to go for Baron. You just got a mountain dragon.
Yeah, I mean, they should have done it.
You got a Blade of the King, Blade of the Ruined King on Tristana. Come on, MVP. Step it up. You said that you still had a chance for Worlds. This doesn't look like it.
Well, definitely a bunch of mistakes have been made in this game, but they're definitely making a good case for them to come back in the series, as they are in a fantastic spot here in game number 2. A couple of the most valuable dragons on their side. They're hoarding them up as much as possible, and so far this composition out of Jin Air, they get the engages when it's given to them, but if MVP plays it solid, they don't look like they can actually set up these plays. I mean, his Sejuani hasn't been as powerful as we had hoped. He gets caught again, and he's flashing out, but a perfect cast. Unfortunately, quite tanky, is not going to go down. Now it's Beyond who's in trouble, and it looks like, well, again, they capitalize on one of MVP's mistakes, and they make this game a little bit closer.
But they don't chain the CC quickly enough, so Sejuani gets to get away. That was actually a great look for MVP to go for that pick. They even got the flash out of Sejuani. That's a pretty important summoner, because if you can combo it with Arctic Assault to maybe even stop Tristana's rocket jump, instead of seeing a shockwave come out right away, or even the body slam, they just don't use enough instantly, and so Sejuani gets to get away with her life, and the combo comes out from Snowflower, since his Unbreakable Will does allow him to tank anything had it been turned. Let's take another look at it again. So let's see, Max opens up, hits the knockup, but where is Beyond? Where's the stun? Why do we not see everything get comboed? What happened with the body slam? That's really what I wanted to know.
I'm not sure, maybe he used it to get over the wall.
No, he walked around.
Okay. Not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking about in that fight, actually. I wasn't really paying close attention to Beyond because he had the scanner going down and he saw Max in the brush. He was like, okay, I know everybody is collapsing on me, but I still really need to kill this green ward. It's life or death for the green ward. And again, just perhaps some tilt coming into play here for MT, who hasn't had the cleanest series and has to be extremely careful in those positions. They can't be losing their jungler, especially at this point in the game.
Not one bit. And so here, I think we finally get some breathing room, and I can finally weave in the point that I wanted to ask you so we can start a serious discussion.
Okay,
would you rather be, let's say, would you rather be the most experienced League of Legends player in the world, where you know where to be at the right time at all times, where you know like the best move 24/7, or, but your mechanics aren't very good, you're like a 4 out of 10 in the mechanics? Or would you rather be 10 out of 10 in mechanics and like a 4 out of 10 in being in the right place, right time?
10 out of 10 mechanics easily, because eventually you'll get the experience and then you'll have both.
No, but this is not a matter of like eventually. This is a matter of now in a game. You get to pick one side. You want to be the side that has the mechanics or the knowledge and no knowledge, or the side with knowledge and no mechanics.
I think it depends on your team composition, your teammates. You know, it's. Can you be carried by your team?
More abstract. I think more abstract is still the benefits to having the mechanics and the benefits of having the positioning.
In that case, I'd probably say experience, especially between two teams like this. You know, Jin Air sitting at right now, I think 6th place, or yeah, 6th place, and MVP sitting at 8th, if I'm not mistaken, or 7th.
Yeah.
Rather, it's definitely having the experience in this kind of situation where basically you're not going to make mistakes, even if your mechanics aren't 100% there. You know, maybe your skill shots aren't always hitting. It's not going to make the most gigantic difference in the game, whereas throwing your life away, being in the wrong place, wrong time, definitely can throw the game away. So.
Yeah, but here's the cool thing about that, right? Because if you have all the knowledge, you need to be playing nearly perfectly. Your plays have to be the best plays at all times. You can't be making any mistakes, but you're restricted to a set amount of plays because your mechanics aren't there. Whereas if you have all the mechanics, you actually open yourself up to a bigger playbook of what you can and cannot do. If you're, say, an Elise that can't hit cocoons but is always in the best place, you're gated by having somebody else set up the stun for you. And so it creates a discussion of, if you had great mechanics, what else could you be able to do? Could you be able to be in a crazier position? Is the team with the ultimate mechanics, are they going to be able to always rush a Baron and go for a 50-50, but they'll never lose that on the smite? So it opens up a whole bunch of plays that weren't accessible before, and that's where the value comes from in hiring all these players that are just the most mechanically sound, even though they don't have the right knowledge, because, as you say, it's about the team. If you have them in the right team in the game,
okay. Hold that thought. The perfect engage, the wombo combo. That's what they were looking for. The Featherstorm comes out, but that will not save his life. In comes the package, but immediately Kuzan is going to get over that wall in a fantastic position. Now, MT is not going to go down. They're looking for that stun onto Togot. They get the follow-up with the Arctic Assault. He's being CC'd for days, and down he goes. That's going to be 3 kills for the side of Jin Air. Looks like this time they went a little bit too deep.
MVP with deja vu of game 1, but they did not have Baron this time around, and instead they are going to lose it themselves. I don't know what came over them that they wanted to go for that tower dive, but you're dealing with 3 tanks that can turn things around in a very quick manner, and that's exactly what happened. They committed so hard at going for this, but this composition can't really get out. Cho has no mobility. Same with Gragas once he goes in. And yeah, they're getting low, but they'll have this. They have Smite on the table. Yeah, you got it. But you know,
that would have been embarrassing.
It would have been actually better to see maybe MVP try to even contest after that one, seeing how low they got. But we're going to look at it. They go for the crazy that Orianna even flashes in to get the shockwave onto this one. But
EDD too.
Look at the package, just beautiful. You already are having to go through that little corner. Everything is being laid out onto you.
And he Valkyries into the perfect position too. He can do damage from over the wall. And the package just zones everybody into the position that he can hit them over the wall too. So Kuzan coming in with a nice big winning package for his team.
I think they really did not expect that. They thought that he wasn't going to be able to collapse that quickly, because you get that big warning when the package is loaded. And They thought they had the window for it, but when you have to commit your Orianna to go for a flash shockwave, unless you're in a dire situation where it's win or lose, where you actually are going to win the game off that kill, you can push to end the game, it's so difficult to make that work.
Mechanics versus experience, right? I mean, it was good mechanics, good setup. They got the wombo combo, but in that moment in time, perhaps that wasn't the right move. And it turned out to be proven that it wasn't the right move in that moment in time. So now with the Baron on the side of Jin Air, it was very, very close up until this moment in time. But I think at this point, Jin Air has the pushing power to really make big strides in this game and build up a good bank for them and a good lead.
I might end up seeing about a 6,000 gold lead after this Baron. If they can crack down 2 more towers, that should be the case. You can expect them to get some more jungle creep, some denial CS in the lanes, that thing of the sort.
Oh, he's going in onto Kuzan. He's looking for that feast, but he went a little bit too far. Gets the feast, it's not enough damage, and another mistake for the side of MVP. Kuzan stays alive.
Look at that. That thing can feed a whole town for days. Just imagine imagine Godzilla, what would have happened if he actually got killed. You know how much food you've got for the entirety of Japan? I would have eaten Godzilla's
The question
sashimi.
is, how much could they have saved though before it goes rotten, right? Because you gotta carve out the Godzilla. Do you have enough storage space? I'm sure they did, but at the same time, you gotta make quick work.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you can freeze it. I think you could probably freeze it. I don't know if it.
Do you have storage big enough to freeze a Godzilla?
Put it in the mountains. Send it to the mountains. Ship it over there.
What if it's summer?
There's still mountains. Japan has multiple terrains.
I wasn't saying that the mountains disappear in summer.
No, but the mountains are like the mountains that are always in the cold, you know?
Yeah, I suppose so. If the altitude is high enough. You figured it out, Crumbs.
Just imagine that, a Godzilla sashimi. I would be down for that.
You're all about the sashimi. I like my food cooked. I'm not one of those well-done guys, though, because that's just being a little bit too sensitive. You know what I mean? You got to go for the medium. I'm a medium kind of guy. Sometimes medium rare. I can't stomach it, but not rare.
I don't think I know anybody that eats rare steaks. And if I did, I probably don't know them anymore.
Rare steaks?
Or well done, pardon.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, a lot of people eat rare steaks, including you.
Yeah, rare, Pittsburgh rare, blue rare, raw.
Crumbs doesn't even know who he is anymore because he eats rare steaks. Can't associate with that kind of person himself.
You know when you cook them, it's not actually blood that's coming out. It's like a protein in it. It's not really blood. All that juice that comes out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not really blood. It looks like it. There are traces of blood. It's not. I'm just saying it's not fully blood.
Well, you know me. The problem is that it's soft. It's too chewy.
For the sake of this, let's just go back into the game.
All right. Okay. All right.
This is a dangerous road.
All right. I can agree with that. So, Jin Air, they're continuing to push. They don't have the Baron anymore, but they do have an extremely strong push. Tons of poke on the side of Kuzan, who has gotten a big stack of items going for himself. That Trinity Force, Infinity Edge, the Rapid Fire Cannon. Decided to go for the Sork Boots too, adding in the extra damage. Didn't want to go for something like Merc Treads, not looking to be good with his tenacity. And uh-oh, it looks like this time it's Umti that gets caught. Just walking straight through the jungle. Didn't expect to see Godzilla and his buddies.
Man, he actually got a kill out of the feast, so that's pretty big for Cho'Gath because now he's going to start to get stacked. That's what we fear about this champion, if he can actually get kills with that ultimate. He's really just trying to kill steal as many people as possible. That's why he's just trying to walk up close. That's really it. That's what you have to do.
How big he is.
That's what you have to do on Cho'Gath.
Oh, it's so awesome.
All right.
He wasn't expecting the Void Terror from the side.
So silence and bam.
Is my first time casting a Cho'Gath this big. I have to say it's a very new experience. I've enjoyed it so far.
You know, there is a legitimate, this is an actual strategy that was employed like 5 years ago, okay?
Yeah.
So Annie was super meta, and so was Rammus. So what you would do is that since Annie was really important, and Rammus was too. Like the taunt was like 3 seconds. It was super powerful. You would grab Annie and stack her on top of the largest champion you had, so that she would kind of hide inside the character model, and that the Rammus, if he like, would basically just click on the other target and not click on the Rammus or the Annie. It actually works. You can still do that today. If you just have a huge character model and somebody has like a point and click ability that can't be bypassed with like the command to only hit champions, then you can basically cancel out abilities just from being too big. Being too large is
the mechanics required for that must be pretty hard, because you have to constantly stay on top of the Annie, right? It's not the easiest thing in the world.
She's tiny. If you're a Cho,
but at the same time, I mean, the communication, right? You got to make sure you're going the same direction.
Oh, come on. It's like, hug me. Stay next to me. Like, I'm your safety.
I guess it's
in her best interest to stay near the champion that is protecting her that way.
I love those kinds of ideas where it's really stuff that wasn't intended to come into the game, right? It wasn't like, okay, let's make a really big character model that can hide an Annie, right? But just the the cleverness, the unique plays that come out in moments like that from the players is really cool to see, and I'm sure we'll get to see cool stuff like that in the future as well. For now, it's just giant tanks bumping bodies against each other. I'm sure there are some people out there who do enjoy it, but we've had a very enjoyable series so far. Lots of different carries, making plays, doing the deeps. Bit of a lull in this game, though, as Jin, they have pushed a bunch of the turrets, but they still haven't taken mid-tier 2. Now we do have the Baron up at this point in time. MVP making a big maneuver over towards there. Are they just going to start it? Here we go. The rush coming on in, and they do have big secure potential with that Cho'Gath. Okay, they're just going to turn off it as the teleport comes in. We'll see if either of these teams wants to make a play, go for an engage. Doesn't look like it just yet.
All right, so they get the TP. That's pretty good.
But at the same time, MVP in a bit of an awkward situation, zoned out slightly on the left side, but it doesn't look like Jin can close that gap, and they're going to go onto this Cho'Gath. Everything used onto him, but look at Corki in the back. The face comes in. The heal will be used to save his life, but now he is effectively out of this fight. They're trying to turn this around. They still got Teddy for that DPS, but now it looks like Umtiu is the target. In comes Maha, trying to pull off his own death style. Not going to be able to put down the damage, and nobody dies in that fight.
Look at that TP from Kuzan. They're going to go for a Baron rush themselves. Oh, they're thinking about it.
They're thinking about it.
They're doing it.
There's a ward. They know about this. But here we go. Snowflower is going to tag that ward down. Umti himself is extremely low. He can't actually go into the pit just yet. He needs to be saved for the smite. Here comes the TP. They're bursting this down, and it looks like they should be able to secure it. Now it's about engaging. Can they get on top of this Gragas? They cannot take him out. The big knock-up on the Corki. Does he have that feast available? Not yet. It doesn't matter. The shockwave comes in, and they do pick off Kuzan. But at the end of the day, Jin, they push MVP back, and they get the Baron.
That was a great heads-up play from Jin to start the Baron up after all of MVP had been chunked out. We've been talking all game long about a chunk is just as good as a death because it forces you to recall. It takes you out of the fight. You are forced to reevaluate the angles at which you come in, and most of the time you just have to leave. And so Jin take advantage of that. And the second that Kuzan left that fight, you know that he wanted to teleport back in. It's either he TPs back into the fight or he goes for a play. So we're going to look at it again. And it all starts with Umti going for an engage onto ADD. Sure, he hits the ultimate, but now Cho is huge. Hitting that one doesn't really matter a whole lot. But the carries don't have many targets to hit. Corki's already out of the fight effectively. And while Xayah is silent, she can't do a whole lot besides these autos onto a really fat Gragas without the threat of Orianna and Tristana. So they just have to get out. They run effectively, but because they did so much work already, they're healthy enough to go start the Baron, and they walk away with the objective victory out of a fight that they didn't even start.
Yeah, they're walking a thin line at the end of the day. I mean, it's close. ADD was so close to one-shotting Kuzan, and had he done that, that fight looks entirely different. Maybe Jin gets the disengage, but they don't get the Baron. MVP, they can regroup. We've got long timers now, 37 minutes into the game. They could have tried to force a 5v4 around the Baron. They have the Cho'Gath. And we could have seen MVP in a decent spot, but that is not the case as the second Baron goes over to Jin Air, and now they will have this push going down. Sohan still has his TP available, will begin to push in the bot lane.
The heal was critical in keeping Kuzan alive, and even though they have Baron, it's going to be a nightmare to fight. They're actually going.
They're going. They're trying to hit that back line. Meanwhile, though, here comes the package. ADD is going to be burst down up into the top lane, but Kuzan going a little bit too deep this time around, and he brought Sohan with him, who's going to be baited in. And look at that. The Cho'Gath stays alive. He's not going to go down. Maha, he's going on a rampage. That's a double kill. Can we make it a triple? The headbutt will not matter. There's the triple kill for this Tristana, who is beginning to get out of control.
And Jin Air is playing these fights like they have the same comp that they had before, with people that can play on the flanks. This is not that kind of composition. They have to remain grouped as a 5-man unit. That's what MVP did. Sure, ADD and Max were a little bit far ahead, but the rest remained grouped. But Kuzan just by himself flying into a Tristana and Orianna had no business there. Gets taken out, and the second that one of your carries is out of the fight, MVP can just push for days. Now they're not going to be able to go for a base turret. They have to account for their lanes, but it's still a big victory for them because of the Baron. That they actually engaged onto a Baron Jin Air and won.
It's not every day you see that, but at this level, we've been having various levels of team fighting where sometimes it's clean, sometimes it's down and dirty, and that was definitely a down and dirty one, as Kuzan charging the Tristana, being crit a couple of times and saying, oh crap, I don't have a package anymore, and does go to the side of MVP. But Teddy able to abuse the fact that MVP had to stop that push in the top lane to pick up the mid tier 2, so stacking up the gold.
Oh, curiously enough, even after last game, Corki's win rate in the LCK at around 40-something games is under 38%. So there we go. The engage comes out. You know there's not going to be a follow. Imagine if the package just cut off everybody, like the 4 people behind, and then they just focus Max and the Cho'Gath. Imagine how good that would have been.
Yeah.
Instead, he just donates himself, goes full-on suicide bomber in there, and nothing comes out of it.
Wasn't the most impressive package we've seen, perhaps being a little bit overconfident with his fantastic play that he had earlier on in the day, earlier on in this game rather, with his package. But now we do have the Baron buff off of Jin Air. We're sitting here at 40 minutes. Still have that wombo combo potential on the side of MVP, but now we got this Tristana fed to hell, and the engage doesn't work. That's going to be the Sejuani ult now down. Maha makes it out alive.
It's like a little ARAM. Both these teams just trying to run face first into each other. They're throwing out vision control, wave control out the window. They just don't care. They just want to get a fight started. And since those are the terms at which we are fighting, you can expect anybody to really win. I think that the gold difference has ceased to matter if this is the style that is being harnessed.
Yeah. It's really going to be about the engages, how the fights go down. And you can see just how tanky this Cho'Gath is. Look at that cask. It's going to get Snowflower and Umti into a bad spot. But in the back, looks like Kuzan and Teddy still pretty okay, pretty healthy, and they're going to pull down ADD. But a nice shockwave is going to get 3 members. Umti, though, very tanky. Can Beyond actually kill Kuzan here? Doesn't look like it. He went a little bit too deep. Maha, though, still a terror in the back line, almost picking up 2 kills. Does get 1 as Snowflower went deep himself. And still a threat to be maintained here. Jin Air have to be so careful when they engage onto Maha. Here comes the TP, though. Maha doesn't have his flash. Sohan going a little bit too forward. And now Kuzan not going to get it. The ult is going to sail wide. Maha still very healthy in the back line. And they use a lot, but they cannot take out Tristana.
That was so uncoordinated in the end, actually. The Kuzan solo charging in once again on Corki. He can't do that. It's a late game Orianna and Tristana. And if only they actually comboed that with the Glacial Prison, or yeah, Glacial Prison for Umti, that could have actually been a whole lot more. But look at how different these fights look for Jin Air when you've got the tanks separating a big part of the damage and then the carries peeling back. Both Corki and Xayah hitting out the Corki. So we're going to look at it again. The Rapture gets used immediately, which I'm not going to go on the details of the Cho train, but when the Shockwave hits, you're thinking, wow, that's going to be a huge fight. But ADD is taking so much damage. The carries are not able to do a whole lot. They can't access the backline. The flash from Corki is great, and with Renekton being there, they can't push forward. Orianna needs to be so aware of her positioning at all times during a team fight that if people get away from her, she just has no more damage.
And again, that at the end of the day was just a 1-for-2 trade in favor of Jin Air. But we got this Baron coming up. They're looking to rush it looks like. MVP setting this up. Will Jin Air respond? It looks like they're already moving that way, but this will go down extremely fast. The Infernal, the Mountain, and the Cho, the Tristana, they're bursting it down. They can get it. Looks like Tristana will pick that one up. So the Baron goes over to MVP. Will we have an engage? Both these guys is poking at each other, and there's the Recon engage. They're going to get a huge grand entrance. Snowflower getting extremely low. Will trade his life for it, but still, Kuzan, Teddy, still very well protected for now. There's it's going to go, the double kill. Tristana just way too much damage, and Jin Air is going to be wiped. MVP should be able to take this game.
That's gonna be GG. They have about a minute on death timer. So simple for them, and I don't know what Jin Air was doing. MVP showed their hand already that they were willing to rush a Baron the second they got to it. They didn't care about clearing out the vision. They were just gonna start it when it spawned. They do so again. Jin Air is not prepared, and MVP walk away with Baron, and now game 2.
Death timers are going to be too long, and the Tristana got way too out of hands. Maha doing his best on this champion. The flash in even by all these members. They know it's over. Just tanking those turrets as well as they can. Looks like MVP should be able to easily pick up game number 2.
The Cho dancing in the end. This is a much better showing from MVP this time around. I think the decisiveness was there that was lacking in a lot of aspects of game 1. They did have an easier time in the early game. So Jin Air tried to play a similar style of the mid game with a different composition that had worked previously for them. It did not work this time around, and now that they're going to have blue set for this final game, I really want to see them revert back to a more skirmish-oriented style. Don't worry about these team fighting compositions. Just go with what is comfortable for them. Even seeing Sejuani was a bit of a surprise, as you mentioned. He has had a lot of success in other picks, and maybe without Elise, he's just not comfortable enough to go with anything else, and that's what we've seen really. It's Elise, tanks, or Rek'Sai, and if they didn't want to do Rek'Sai, you can't really blame them.
Yeah, the Sejuani was lackluster. I don't want to see it again, and you can see that himself he's trying to, I suppose, get his head back in the game. You can see he's taking it a little bit hard, but he's got another game to play. Everybody's got to be on the same level for game number 3. And I feel like MVP always looks the same, whether or not they win or lose. They always turn around, talk to their coach. You see a lot of trust in that booth for sure.
That's exactly how it should be. You don't want to have your emotions be running high. You got to be analytical, push forward, think about the next game. Think about the Rift Herald that you did. Reflect on this one. Realize why it was a bad idea. And this is where Jin Air got a big chunk of their early game lead, where MVP started that Rift Herald and, oh, Snowflower. What did Kuzan do to you?
Well, he misses the combo, and mistakes were made.
This was such a disjointed fight. This would have been great for Jin Air had their champions been different champions that would have been better for these early skirmishes, for being separated, for isolating targets, individual single target damage. But that's not what they had this time around. They had Sejuani, Renekton, Alistar. MVP gave him another chance here with that dive that actually resulted in a Baron for them, with a crazy dive that Kuzan was able to come in right at the last second with the package, and this is where things look great for Jin Air, but unfortunately they were just not able to hold up when it came down to these team fights, because MVP, just more experience with these fights, stayed composed, 5 men together, and this is where it really all fell apart.
The package, I don't know where you're delivering that one to, but looked like it wrongly went straight into the hands of Maha, who at this moment in time just began to pop off. And after this fight, they just couldn't deal with the Tristana. There were so many other threats on the side of MVP that they really just could not deal with it in a 5v5.
It's your Amazon Prime, same day delivery. You need it right then and there. He wants to give it to you, no matter what the cost is. And another 5v5 just straight up in the mid lane. There wasn't much setup for us to discuss about these. They just looked at each other and did not like each other and just went straight for these fights. But MVP did not win this one because the tanks get a little too separated. Look at Beyond. He continues to aggress onto Kuzan, but he has Gargoyle Stoneplate up, so he's not going to do any damage. Instead of body slamming out, he body slams in. The final fight, while it looked a little wonky because the cast separated them, there just was no way for them to deal any damage. Look at how the tanks play. The only members you're hitting are Gragas and Cho'Gath, and both have Stoneplate active. Like, who are you actually going to kill at that point?
Got to give it up at that point, I suppose. Try to disengage, but...
Well, that's how I was, like, the access to backline damage is the most important thing when you're running these tank compositions. If you can't hit the backline, your tank composition better have Kog'Maw and Vayne for you to actually take anybody down.
Yeah, perhaps I would love to see Kog'Maw or Vayne in the next fight. Please bring it onto the Rift. I hope someone out there is listening, but we do get a look at the damage charts here. It was very, very close in terms of gold, but Tristana definitely running away with this one, essentially with the help of her big tanky front line. So